because like half of that movie just has like the most ham-fisted Iraq War analogies in it.
Miguel, if you're listening to this right now, you've just been hearing Cole Spurg out about George Lucas donating $1 million to build the MLK monument.
I love black people. I think they're the real Jedi. They have the Force.
George Lucas gets the pass.
Nicole said it, not me. Uh-oh, Mike.
You literally just said it. I'm literally tweeting out what you just said. You told me to tweet it out.
I'm allowed to say it.
You said George Lucas gets the. You said George Lucas gets the N-word pass for donating at least $1 million to build the MLK Memorial in Washington D.C. Keep riffing, Stu. Keep riffing. This is actually a great cold open bit.
Well, you threw off my groove.
George Lucas asking for reparations or bowing in a kente cloth.
No, he's too cool. That's the thing. He's like too cool for that. You know?
I'm always giving my money to black women in divorces.
He's only been married to one black woman though, which is crazy. That's the really funny thing is he got married to a white woman for like 10 years and then was single up until 2013 and then was like back to the old me. He had dated a bunch. He had been seen with a bunch of black women though. But yeah, he's only been married to one of them. He's so cool, man. That's the thing is like so many like
I've been the cream in the middle of the Oreo.
So many of those like type of directors are like the only time it has ever been cool to be like a nerdy white guy that is exclusively into black women. Like if you do that like if you do that now, you look like AOC's boyfriend, you know? You look like that dude. But like back then it's like, yeah, we're gonna make Star Wars and then we're gonna like go to the hood and celebrate.
Well, if you're just tuning in, you guessed it, we're talking about Star Wars again on this episode of Marvelous, or the Death of Cinema. Hi, it's me.
So I just want to preface this episode. We're talking about The Last Jedi, and there's a lot of very sensitive, loaded discourses, some real strong emotions related to this film. But I just want to make our position clear from the start. Women don't belong in Star Wars.
Yeah, I agree.
Get them out of here. We don't need them.
Get them out of here. Get them out of here.
It's for the fellas.
All right, I'm a head out then.
I watched the 4K remaster of the original cut of Star Wars. Carrie Fisher is so effervescent in film. She looks gorgeous. Like I get pissed.
Still mourn her to this day.
She's a lot of like beauty marks on her face. And I never noticed this, but I think in the recent Blu-ray release, they edited out some of her beauty marks, and it's like, no, that's the cool thing. That's the cool thing about Carrie Fisher is she's like the hottest woman alive, and also looks like the nicest preschool teacher of all time. You know,
that's like the sweetest way to describe her. Oh my god,
she's so hot.
The thing you have to understand about the Star Wars universe is, with the technology of the Old Republic, skincare, there's very good skincare, and it violated continuity. It violated the world I was trying to create, but we didn't have the technology at the time in 1976 to give everyone the skin they were supposed to have in the galaxy far, far away.
He's a visionary, because it takes a visionary to stick with something that fails for many years. But he sees the end result, then he works his way to it.
Actually, the most recent Blu-ray wasn't supervised by Lucas. The most recent Blu-ray wasn't done by Lucas. You have to do a Kevin Feige, Bob Iger voice. I don't know
what those guys sound like. I'm guessing sort of like Microsoft Sam.
They They sound like
Everything must be smooth.
hello, hello. My name is Herr. My name is Herr Kevin Feige. I love making the Marvel movies. I hate. Yeah, I was trying to
That
do a
just
Hitler.
sounds
Can
like
we,
your
Miguel,
Pepe Le
cut
Pew
that?
voice.
No, Hitler's got that like.
Well, speaking of Hitler, top of the hour. Before we dive full into the fucking Last
He
Jedi,
killed himself.
Let's do some quick hits on the news. Who?
He actually Hitler.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
yeah, but you know who should also
breaking
kill
news.
themselves?
Breaking
You know who should also kill? You know who should also kill themselves? David Zaslav, who just got his ass booed to shit at the BU commencement.
To be fair, they were
Which
booing.
Boston University fucking being like, yeah, we're gonna have the most hated man on earth give our commencement speech in the middle of the WGA strike.
They don't like that he took Boston boy Ben Affleck out of the DCU. We had a Boston Batman and you killed him.
They're really mad that he
17 people died on that day.
They're really
for
mad
a Boston Batman.
They're really mad he scrapped the Batgirl movie because they needed a new black woman to yell out collectively. Speaking of which, I will be in Boston by the time this. Actually, no, I won't. Not by the time this episode comes out, but I will be in
Marvelous
Boston to
meetup.
be. I need to train my racism. I'm gonna be like wearing like the training outfit that Goku wears, and I'm gonna be
you are visiting me, or you're
I'm gonna be going to the
seeing you.
street where Mark Wahlberg clawed that eye and that guy's eye out. My hair is gonna be turning blonde, and I'm gonna be glowing and flying around like Goku.
Boston is the hyperbolic time chamber of racism.
It is.
It is. Speaking of racism, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny stinks.
Well, I mean, I think that was a given.
Kansas, I don't know how I was. I don't know. I was making. I was trying to make the wheelbarrow off of the Hitler comment.
That movie does feature a Nazi villain. Star of Death Stranding, Mads Mikkelsen plays. I believe his character is revealed to be like the son of the Nazi scientist from the first movie.
Why they always got to do that shit? Somebody's always got to be somebody's
with the creepy looking one.
Yeah, the creepy looking one. I don't know. I remember reading a leaked script on 4chan. And from what I understand, the time travel element of the film is true. Spoilers for a bad movie that isn't out yet. But from what I understand, the movie centers around like them time traveling to Indiana Jones time traveling to stop a Nazi and then accidentally erasing himself from time. And then the girl boss character goes back in time to restore the timeline, but she becomes Indiana Jones. She's like the new Indiana Jones.
This is my fight song.
That's Fleabag, right?
I don't know.
Phoebe Waller-Bridges.
Yeah. Phoebe Bridger.
Like a rich Phoebe Bridgers.
Is that
like stupid as shit.
I mean, I don't mind if they make Indiana Jones into a girl as long as she's still a pedophile.
Miguel, insert a bedumtis after that.
Insert an interview clip from James Gunn.
All right. Well, anyways, just to cap that off, we're all pro WGA strike.
I think everybody should go on strike
as well.
Like everybody who can strike. You should go on strike. Everybody should go on strike, except us.
I will be going on strike from the podcast.
No, we're here to talk to The Last Jedi for you guys today, so we can't strike. So quick hits. Let's do a roundtable on
what we thought
when we saw this. Yeah, or our history with it, and then what we thought, because we all did the group watch again.
Yeah, together. We're gonna be speeding through the summary part to get to the discourse part. So strap yourself in. We're gonna
be talking about movies.
We are.
Yeah, because at this point we all recognize that like just talking about The Last Jedi is beating a long dead horse to death. But
beat that
so
horse.
we're gonna try to do a more of an comb through of like the stupid discourse.
Yeah.
This
surrounding
movie
it,
made
but,
people insane, and
This people made this
it's such a
trilogy made people insane.
middling movie for what it did to people's brains.
I saw this movie, I guess to start us off.
Yeah,
I
go.
first saw this movie, I think opening day with a friend of mine, when I think it was my junior or senior year of high school. I think it was my junior year. And I remember driving to the theater and we were listening to the third album in Brockhampton's Saturation trilogy. And honestly, if you asked me what would cause more scandal on the internet, The Last Jedi or Brockhampton, I would honestly be very surprised to find out it was the Star Wars movie.
What kind of name is Brockhampton?
You just sound old.
Which was the style at the time?
Miguel's gonna insert the Grandpa Simpson right there.
You that's a
I'm not
what kind
old.
of name is
I'm-
Fallout Boy?
Well, it's
Well,
a
so it was a
reference
Simpsons
to
character.
Radioactive Man's sidekick,
Is it really?
the fictional comic book character from The Simpsons.
Yeah. Yeah. As someone who got their start on the Fall Out Boy message boards, I can confirm.
Oh, man, I can't believe
you
you
see,
just
I had no
admitted that.
idea because I wasn't a Fallout Boy person. I just needed like a
'Cause you're
I
your
thought-
baby.
band.
I really didn't like the whole emo pop trend. I thought all those guys sang through their noses. They all sang like this. Well, no, not with the vibrato, but like they all kind of like sang through their noses, and I hated it. They all sounded whiny, and they all needed to be shoved into lockers. Every single one of
The
them.
only
Gerard
one that
Way,
no. Okay, I will brook no My
Mikey-
Chemical
Mikey
Romance
Tears.
slander.
We are going very off
I will
topic
brook
right
no
now.
My Chemical Romance slander on this podcast.
Absolutely, yeah, no, absolutely no My Chemical Romance slander.
You can-
anything
I
bad.
don't
you
actually
say
have
about
anything
them back.
against them now. Gerard Way was just
You
the only
can-
one whose name I could think of.
You can dog walk Fallout Boy all you want. They've dropped nothing but dog shit their entire career.
Whoa,
Especially
whoa, whoa!
now.
Absolutely not.
Remember the high hopes? Remember
That was
excessive-
Panic at
that
the
wasn't
Disco.
Fallout Boy. That's Panic at the Disco. You old head.
Oh right, yeah, those are different things.
But My Chemical Romance is goated, and they're boys with Grant Morrison. So I'm gonna have to fuck
Yeah.
with them.
All right. Well, Cole. Okay, no, you gave me
Yeah.
Stu. Since you want to flap your gums, tell us about your first encounter with. I don't
My
know.
gums are
I'm
tight
sorry.
and
That was
polished.
very mean. I'm sorry.
Look, so this movie came out, and I watched an extremely legitimate copy of it, and I thought it was like fine. I thought it was like had some kind of sort of interesting ideas. I thought, well, maybe on this trajectory, by the third one, they'll do something kind of interesting, and they didn't. And now this movie just kind of floats in a void where whatever potential it had to be cool is just sort of nullified. And so it's just kind of like a Frankenstein's monster that lurches off the table and then crumples onto the floor and dies.
Well, I did not write an award-winning essay on this movie. So we're not going to be doing any Maoist self-criticism this time around. Although we do have a third co-host.
I mean, doing some
now,
moist
which I don't think
self-criticism.
I think we didn't. Yeah, that was we did The Force Awakens, and that was the last episode we did before we officially brought Cole on, with the exception of the Mummy patron. But I saw Last Jedi also opening day. I saw it in like a packed theater at the AMC in Boston Common, which is where I've seen like most movies. It played incredibly well to the audience due to all the fucking hype. I didn't like it as much as The Force Awakens, but I did like it when I saw it.
You saw Adam Driver's wide bare torso, and the poor
He's
fucking
so
usher at the
wide.
Megaplex had to re-upholster the seat after.
Cold would have killed
Oh,
me
man.
having a
Someone brought their dog to Guardians of the Galaxy today.
Oh my god, they're pit
Oh
bull.
Jesus!
Someone
what are
brought
you
them like.
doing?
I swear to God, if I don't clean Sunday night, I go home because we don't have a show on Monday. But if I have to go in tomorrow and there's dog shit on the floor, I'm quitting. Like I assume because it's a service dog and you're like an adult, you probably I think I saw the guy like go outside to walk the dog, but if there is dog shit on the floor, I'm hanging myself from the balcony.
Anyways, the last time I saw The Last Jedi was maybe like 3 or 4 years ago at my best friend's house on like Thanksgiving or Easter, maybe Easter. And it didn't hold up as well, and same here, except like in the post nut clarity of revisiting The Force Awakens, I guess is how you could describe it. Yeah, it's like there are parts of it that are like I found certainly entertaining. Like, this is like, if someone has this on, I'll like sit down and maybe watch a few scenes. But like, so I liked it more than either of you, I can guess, or I can gather.
This and Force Awakens are both. They're both more watchable than most Marvel movies. They're a little bit better looking, but they have basically the same problem.
Yeah, it's my overall take is that like, there's a lot of stuff in there that's like pretty bad. Actually, like 2 of the B plots do not work. I'm referring, of course, to the Finn and Rose going to the casino planet B plot and the whole B plot with Poe Dameron and Laura Dern. That's just like hashtag microaggressions, girl boss. The side
Obey
plot.
women.
Obey women. But like there are a couple things I genuinely do like and do think work pretty well, and I do appreciate that it's trying to do something different. Definitely like compared to like the other movies in this new trilogy.
Yeah.
It earns points from me for like taking a swing at something greater and doing like something, dare I say, like, quote unquote subversive with the material, but this isn't like
This is no Attack of the Clones.
and anyways, well, do we want to even bother giving like a brief overview of what happens?
If you haven't seen this movie, turn the episode off right now. Go home. Tell your family that you love them. If you haven't, congratulations, you've just been drafted in the next battle of the Discourse War. Grab your gun. We're going to the jungle, baby. Also, I forgot to give my take on this movie. I hate it. It's bad. It's like
you hated it.
It's like 10%.
I know you hated it because you spent most of the time talking to Stu about the prequels. You were like chattering like a couple of fucking hens during the screening.
Yeah, I will say Ryan Johnson doesn't deserve half the shit that he gets for this movie. This movie had like 87 fucking directors and like 87 fucking writers. So even anything that he's trying to
he's
subvert.
the only one that has credits, but I mean, yeah, I figure being a big Disney franchise,
there's like a billion like reshoot directors because I think they like added more Snoke stuff, and I think all the like the Gambling Planet was added in as well.
That would explain a lot too, because
there's like 30 minutes of this movie that he didn't write. And so I forgive Ryan Johnson for making this movie. He didn't know what he was signing up for. He seems perfectly fine as a human being. I haven't seen any of his other movies. I don't plan on ever watching any of his other movies.
I like Brick. I remember liking Looper, okay, but I haven't seen it since it came out. He
has a movie about actually.
He did some good
Nicole
episodes
delete
or
Miguel delete everything I just said.
I've never seen the Glass Onion movies.
Knives Out.
Just like even when you watch like something like Brick or Looper, you always feel like he's like trying to be like a little too cute, a little too smart, like to just trying too hard to be clever. And
he is someone who
undercuts this movie, I think.
He is someone who, by his own admission, is like a video essay guy. Like he loves to like I think he follows like Lindsay Ellis and like ContraPoints, and
He's got the soy guy physiognomy.
Yeah, oh,
I don't
definitely.
know any.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
He's like a wide-headed
he's probably
ginger,
fine. I don't
right?
know.
But like I think he's like he's a guy who wants to make real movies and is not without talent. And
Yeah.
just as far as I know, there's nothing really objectionable about him as a guy, aside from maybe just being a little annoying in a certain kind of nerd way.
He is a movie guy. He is a movie guy. Like there wasn't any, as far as my research like proved, there wasn't any like serious production drama in the making of this movie, but like he's like a serious movie guy. He like got his like writers team to watch like a bunch of like old westerns and classic war films. Like he name dropped like Bridge on the River Kwai, Three Outlaw Samurai, Sahara, like a bunch of shit you would like get in the Criterion closet as like things he made his writing group watch like while they were writing this movie, which was happening while The Force Awakens was like in production. So we'll probably touch upon like the clusterfuck that was the making of this new trilogy.
They always do that though with these movies. They always say like, "Oh man, we like watched and studied and are paying homage to all these like classic old movies." And it's
Yeah.
like it never amounts to anything.
It doesn't. It doesn't. You know what?
And it doesn't come
you
through
know
at
what?
all.
Trilogy of sci-fi films, actually two trilogies of sci-fi films, do successfully pay homage to the rich history of genre fiction, and that's the first two Star Wars trilogies, which are great.
I was like, at least one of the
I will.
one of the things you're going to suggest are going to be the prequel trilogies. So this listeners, keep in
will
mind
be-
that Cole is prequel pilled. Me and Stu are not.
A disciple of Super Mecha Godzilla who's
I don't know. I don't know who
perverse
that
intellectual
is.
legacy haunts us to this day.
I don't know who that is. I just I really feel a deep connection to George Lucas. I love the guy. What can I say? I really do. He's a great guy. I would love to meet him one day.
Uncle George.
Uncle George.
Yeah. I'm just gonna go to a mall. Yeah.
I mean, he like hangs out in like mall food courts, so you might run into him.
I'm gonna go to a mall and we'll hang out and get some Panda Express. We have similar. That was one thing about that picture of him eating Panda Express that I love, is that like that's the same order I would get if I get like Chinese fast food. he got like the little lo mein. I think he had like a little orange chicken and then a side thing of rice. I think.
Yeah.
There, which is.
Do you want to come back to the ranch and watch some anime? Some Japanime?
Oh, dude, you know his like a DVD library goes nuts.
There's like he must watch anime. Like there's no way
there's so many Ghost in the Shell references in episode 2. There's like literally the chase scene in like the speeder bike chase.
Dr. Han reaction.
The chase scene in episode 2 is like basically has the opening dive of Ghost in the Shell in the movie.
I think Ritsuko is best girl. I know that's a controversial opinion.
I think he might have financed some anime as well.
Passionate about that.
I know he financed.
Well, he financed Mishima, so he's goated for that at the very least.
Yeah, no, he's forgiven of all sins for financing Mishima.
He financed like all of Akira Kurosawa's last films.
Dreams, yeah, which I need to finish watching.
Genuinely, if you don't like George Lucas as a person, it's over for you. He's the like that whole American Zoetrope crowd, like minus Peter Bogdanovich, is like the chillest dudes of all time.
The plot is really convoluted, and a lot of it doesn't really go anywhere because the whole movie needs to wrap back around to a point where the next movie can just do whatever it's doing. So nothing can have any consequence outside itself.
Yeah, so we're
you could actually, like, if you're actually to watch these 3 movies in order, I feel like you could just cut the last Jedi out.
We're more interested, as we said at the top of the hour.
Stu, you're gonna get
discourse.
You're cutting off Nicole. You're doing you're gonna get
Jim's not going to appreciate that.
Look,
Shout out to
we're-
Jim.
Hi, Jim.
Shout out to Jim.
Hi, Jim.
But you're on your Joss
Shout
Whedon
out to
shit.
Jim.
I'm making a metatextual point about this movie's superficial approach to feminism.
I mean, you're right. You're right, but you're talking over the woman. while
Okay,
you're
let's
doing it.
let's go from there.
That is the metatextual point.
Well, let's
That
go
is the
from there
metatextual point.
because you're very specifically
That is the
referring
metatextual
to-
point.
Let's go by because I spent at least collectively 2 hours putting these notes together. So
I didn't read them.
You know, we should appreciate that.
Shout out to Nicole for spending like 8 hours on the show notes.
For,
That was
for doing the most research.
a friend of the show, Nicole.
But you're specifically talking about Poe Dameron's B plot.
Yeah, I'm specifically talking about Poe
which
Dameron's
is
B.
just
Okay, I'm going to stop.
basically
Okay,
Poe undermines
I've run
Leia's
it in the-
orders.
No,
Yeah.
Miguel, I need you to kill Stu.
Hey, Stu! Try getting me to watch right now, you fucking stupid bastard!
Yeah, so she gets we gotta
Yeah, no,
Miguel,
actually,
edit in just like a fleet
I'm
of
gonna
gunshots.
speak over Nicole. Edit in the you should kill yourself now clip every time Stu talks, but only during this bit. Don't do it for the whole episode. But if you do edit into the whole episode, we'll give you all the money in the Patreon.
You got a deal.
Okay,
Your life is nothing. You serve zero purpose. You should kill yourself now.
Yeah, so the
Yeah.
like I know you got the Vanity Fair or the insane Vanity Fair article open for you, but like basically Laura Dern's whole subplot boils down to her having
Pronouns.
dyed hair and workplace microaggressions. It's a ham-fisted criticism of how like men undermine strong powerful women and question their
Poe
knowledge
Dameron
to sustain their own
mansplains.
egos.
You serve zero purpose. You should kill yourself now.
And doesn't do what he's told by a powerful woman and people die. Even though the whole problem could have been avoided if the powerful woman just like trusted her most loyal guy and was just like, here's the plan, so don't do anything stupid. Like if she told him the plan and he did something stupid anyway, that would make more sense, but it rests on that. But it's the problem we have with all the Marvel movies where like the heroic characters can never be not heroic enough. So like Poe has to do the microaggression, but he still also has to be a good guy. So there has to be this contrived misunderstanding so that everyone kind of has plausible deniability.
You should kill yourself now.
Miguel, my Wi-Fi just shitted out, so please edit out any.
Oh, we didn't hear
I
anything,
was
so it
rudely
should be
talking over
fine.
Stu.
See, even
I did a reverse sexism.
even the internet is telling us not to listen to women.
Yeah, that Holdo plot is like the one thing I will give to like the guys that like set their action figures on fire because of how bad this movie was. It doesn't. It's not
Laura
her fault.
Dern any
though. Like,
favor.
it's-
it is
it's not
so
her fault.
undeserving of
You
Laura
know,
Dern's presence in the movie.
She showed up. She got
It's
a
not
bag.
her fault
I
at
can't-
all. Like she's
I
Laura
can't hate
fucking
on that.
Dern.
But like whoever wrote that scene in particular should be like thrown into the sun.
Ryan Johnson. That was a Ryan. Ryan Johnson kind of feels like he's on like a similar. He's like not evil Joss Whedon.
Yeah.
Actually, that kind of
feels like
checks
to
out.
me
Yeah,
a little bit, and,
like if we never found out what kind of guy Joss Whedon was like in private, they're kind of on a similar wavelength.
Ryan Johnson is like Joss Whedon for people who think they're like, Joss Whedon is obviously problematic and too like juvenile. I don't know, because he's like he's basically like the whole like class criticism of those like Knives Out movies. I haven't seen the second one, and I texted throughout the first one.
Something I'll give Ryan Johnson credit for is even though we just spent the last 2 minutes comparing him to Joss Whedon, he is like 10 million times more principled than Joss Whedon. Because even when Joss Whedon was doing like Buffy and Firefly and shit, there was always a very like skeevy male sexuality about some of the female characters. And it was always played off as like, okay, well, this guy is woke, he's a male feminist, he understands women. And to his credit, Ryan Johnson never does that. Like, it fucking like you if your dick twitches at any point during this movie and you're attracted solely to women, I would have concerns for you, because there's not an ounce of sexuality in this movie, good, bad, or otherwise.
I would say there's like a
There's a
half
little bit
ounce.
for Kylo Ren. There is a
Yeah,
little
but
bit.
that's about it.
Well, you're both wrong, because if there was, why else were so many like fucking femcel girls creaming their pants over this movie, other than the fucking
Because of
Kylo Ren Ray shit? Yeah,
But there's no male gaze in any. I mean, I hate the term male gaze, but there is no.
do you remember that one shot?
What shot?
We're male gaze. There's nothing for straight guys here, is what we're saying.
No, there's no.
The one the inexplicable shot of just Adam Driver looking wide as a refrigerator with his pants.
But we're talking about
if Joss Whedon directed this movie, there would be a scene where like Ray has to figure out how to use a push-up bra. Like there would be.
No, there would be a prolonged scene just like looking at her feet.
Yeah,
he's
no, that's
definitely
Tarantino.
a foot guy. No, Joss Whedon's a foot guy too. You can see it in.
Joss Whedon is absolutely a foot guy. Ryan Johnson also kind of strikes me as a foot guy, though. Like if he has like a foot guy physiognomy.
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 You do that thing that both me and George Lucas do, where we'll mispronounce words that we know. I'll have to find the interview, but there's like a compilation that my friend made of George Lucas just mispronouncing words that he invented. Like he calls them like the Jedi, and like he calls Hoth like Hoth, which is an autism thing. It's like a form of aphasia where you never it's like you should have gotten speech therapy as a kid, but you either like didn't have access to it or like never got it. Which George Lucas, like 1,000% on the spectrum.
It's like history. It rims.
He is a neurodivergent king.
He's clearly autistic. Yeah, he's
I love him.
Stu, do we have any quick hits from that Vanity Fair?
Oh yeah, the Vanity
article?
Fair.
Yeah, let's do a little bit of a reading series on.
So here's the thing. If you do a Google search of The Last Jedi plus feminism, even if you don't filter for just around when the movie came out, you will just get article after article after article of just inane bullshit coming from people pretending they watched a completely different movie. We could do this. Yeah. We could do 80 hours of shit on this and not even scratch the surface. So we're gonna just try and pull what I think are kind of like some like I don't want to do the thing where we just find the most outrageous opinion some rando had. So really, there's stuff that was in like major websites, major magazines, stuff that people were paying attention to and was kind of reflective of something.
And I should say this. I should preface this. This is a movie that we all agree is like a bad, like borderline unwatchable to just kind of meh.
I know.
I mean, I don't. I'm putting the whole range in. I'm at the
not deserving of any of the discourse.
Really
I'm saying it's unwatchable
feeling,
and then like
general.
Nicole has like the most positive feelings of this, and you still just think it's okay.
Yes, basically.
Like this is a movie that has probably, I would think, more. It probably rivals the amount of think pieces people write about like the Bible. Like
for real.
This movie has been out for
over a decade. Half a decade.
7 years. Yeah, almost 8 years. And
no, not 8 years, like 6.
It came out end of 2016, which was 7 years ago. right? Or 6 years ago.
Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, it's
It's been
not 8.
It's been out for like a
It's been a
shitload. It's been
while.
out for a while. Yeah. And none of us can do math, but fucking this is not a movie that deserves this volume of think pieces. This is not a movie that should have like inspired basically like a fandom civil war between like soy guys that buy Star Wars t-shirts and uh vote for like John McCain, and soy guys that like buy Marvel t-shirts and vote for Barack Obama. Like this movie, honestly, if you told me that there was like a shooting war in like some sort of third world like country over this movie, I would believe you. Like the amount of vitriol that this movie has produced is insane to something that of the degree of just like a mediocre corporate product that is like outside of a few pieces of better visual directing is virtually like aesthetically identical to The Force Awakens.
It's well. Here's the thing. I guess I want to hit my thesis before we go on.
Yeah, because I do want to name check the writer of this insane Vanity Fair article.
I think that over the course of the 2010s, especially after Trump got into office and liberals kind of found political importance in every like dumb fucking entertainment and consumer choice they made. Actually, not just liberals, really.
Anyone to the left of like
right wingers
like Dick Cheney
did the same thing too, but like liberals found it like particularly important to like we're gonna stick it to Trump by like watching a movie, or making a movie that tells the audience how important it is to listen to women, because that's how culture works. People watch a movie and go, "Oh, yeah, I should have voted for Hillary Clinton after all." But I think
that's
what
true.
I think happens here is
when I saw The Last Jedi.
TV. I think it started with like cult TV writers, like the people that made Sherlock, and that kind of thing, kind of like got really good at this, which is engaging with fandom, reading fan shit online, and then exploiting it and toying with it to provoke reactions and build hype. And larger companies and bigger products into the 2000s learned how to do this and dovetailed that with, which is something Hollywood's always done to varying degrees, but in kind of a specific way more recently, which is gesturing at social issues in a kind of vague way. But the way they really do this now is kind of outside the movie itself, is you kind of astroturf all this shit about how like fucking, and in the movie it'll be in the most superficial way possible, but you layer in all these think pieces, all these Vanity Fair, BuzzFeed, GQ, just on and on and on, things about how this movie is so feminist and it's so inclusive and it's so this or that or queer or whatever, and you create an expectation in the audience to see it where it's not there. Do you know what backmasking is?
Stu, we have explained
have I used that analogy already?
I don't know what that
you
is.
don't listen to the podcast.
I've used that analogy already.
That's why I listen to
I don't know
it, so
what
I can keep the
backmasking
continuity
is.
of this flowing. Okay, well, explain
backmasking
to the
is when
baby.
you record something back when you like when you play a recording backwards.
Sorry.
So like you'll like where people would say like, oh, if you play Stairway to Heaven backwards, there's a satanic message.
Mm-hmm. Which is real.
Well, it's one of those things I know. There's some of them are real.
I'm sorry, dude. If you play, where else would the stairway go backwards? Explain that. Where else would the
escalator to hell now temporarily stairs? So when you have one of those things, where someone's like, "There's a satanic message in this song," you like hear the song backwards. It sounds like gibberish. Then you read what's supposed to be there, and then your brain sees it. Or like if someone tells you that cloud looks like a dragon, you'll see the dragon when you didn't before you were primed to see it. And these articles work the same way. They prime you to see all of this shit in a movie that's not really there, to take a reflective shallow pool and trick you into thinking that it's deep, or has a specific content or character. And they combine that with using the same technique to provoke fandom and anti-fandom simultaneously. Like all of those guys that yelled at Kelly Marie Tran online, that flipped out about there being a black guy or a woman in their Star Wars or what the fuck ever, are all, whether or not they realize it, part of the marketing process. Because those guys existing and every fucking media outlet going way out of their way to take anything they say or any awful thing they say or do and make everyone pay attention to it, because in real world context, these guys aren't important or that significant in number, and get a ton of other people mad at them and therefore emotionally and quasi-politically invested in watching and supporting and hyping up a movie and getting more emotionally invested in it than they otherwise would be. That fandom, anti-fandom, or different factions of a fandom, Raylo, all those people fighting and arguing with each other about this movie just gets them more and more invested in it and gets more and more social media impressions. And it's like a process of like conquering and colonizing your psychic space.
Which was the style at the time.
You should kill yourself now.
And the thing I want to point out, and this will lead us back into this Vanity Fair article you found, is like, and I'm speaking here as someone who is a film critic, like film critics are completely complicit in this shit. Like, you know what, just the yes, it's like your Disney and your Warner Brothers that are certainly like taking advantage of it, but it's like the critics and the people who write these think pieces and these like articles, like the New York Times or like Vulture, Vanity Fair, are giving them like hundreds of dollars to write out of their ass, that are like the cadets leading this like culture war. So big
cadets is the lowest one though. That's
okay.
That's the general.
I'm not a military autist like either, like most of our listeners. Sorry.
I'm
but
sorry.
We're
I didn't mean to post
so
it.
anyways, Stu found a great article written by Joanna Robinson, who apparently is the author of a book about the MCU in Hollywood. So maybe if we have a Marvelous reading club, we'll read that rag. But she wrote,
how long is the book? I'll fucking read it. If one of you buys it, I'll fucking read it, dude. I'll fucking.
Well, let me throw out the Stu, if you want to read the excerpt you found. But the title of this,
I just had a bit.
Hold on. Well, the title of this is Star Wars: The Last Jedi offers the harsh condemnation of mansplaining we need in 2017. By Joanna Robinson.
And here's to you, Joanna Robinson. You're a hack and your opinions are gay.
Hey.
Why can't I find this MCU book anywhere? Did they?
It might not be quite out yet.
I just posted it in Mug Chat.
No, I know, but the link, like, okay, I found it. Yeah, okay, no, I'm not reading this book. It's $30.
I skimmed an interview, and she came out of writing a unauthorized behind the scenes look at the MCU, still liking the MCU and having favorite MCU movies, which basically proves that it's like worthless as a bit of analysis.
It is. Jesus Christ, it's 500 pages.
Yeah, but it's like font 14, triple spaced, lots of pictures.
I mean, this is the hardcover. This is the hardcover. Like, I don't know how many.
I want Nicole. I
even still.
I want you to do the quotes
book that's like as long as the.
Okay, I'll read the
so that I can interrupt you.
It has 3 authors. What the fuck?
All right, so Joanna wrote that Holdo, and she's referring to Laura Dern's character, is kind yet dismissive of Poe, only enrages him further. She urges him, for the safety of all concerned, to, quote, stick to your post and follow my orders, unquote. He doesn't. As a result, many rebels die. Speaking about her character's stylish yet firm leadership, Dern told Vanity Fair, Ryan is saying something that's been a true challenge in feminism. Are we going to lead and be who we are as women in our femininity, or are we going to dress up in boys' clothes to do the boys' job? I think we're waking
that
up
quote
to
aged like milk.
What we want feminism to look like. I will no trash talking Laura Dern innocent.
That quote aged like milk because they like if the boys' clothes part, it's like, wow, like, oh man.
One might argue that if Holdo had filled in Poe on her plan to evade the First Order fleet long enough to get within range of an old base on Crate, Poe would have listened and fallen in line. But to borrow a phrase from Poe himself, this mission was a, quote, need to know, unquote. And as soon as a frustrated Holdo and Leia let Poe in on the plan, he blabs about it over the comms to Finn loud enough that Benicio del Toro's DJ can hear and later sell them out. If Poe had just listened to Leia and Holdo from the start, the Rebel fleet wouldn't have been quite so decimated by the end of the film. Poe does clearly learn his lesson by the final frames of The Last Jedi, and only then do his admiration for Holdo, his respect for Leia, and his realization of how much he doesn't know position him to finally become the leader these powerful women hoped he'd be. It's clever for Johnson to have put this story on the very likable Poe. Both Leia and Holdo are careful to reassure audiences that they too like the guy. We expect dismissive sexism from the First Order. How many times do they refer to Rey as the girl? But to see it from a friendly face is even more instructive. Any female boss in 2017 or America still nursing the hangover of the 2016 presidential election could tell you that even nice guys often have trouble taking orders from women. All right, I was fully expecting
you gotta respect your boss. You gotta respect your boss. You gotta be like, I love you, boss. I'll do what you tell me, boss. As long as your boss is a woman. If your boss is a man, then they get the guillotine. But damn, if your boss has a big old pair of tits, you better show up fucking 5 minutes early for every shift.
If your boss has Dolly Parton ass knockers. Anyways, this message, women being largely right and men being mostly wrong, extends to most but not all aspects of The Last Jedi. Rose Tico was certainly right to insist that Finn stay and fight, and right again to save him when he attempts to needlessly sacrifice himself. Rey and Leia were right that Luke should join the Resistance, but Luke still has some things to teach his young student. When they fight on the rainy cliffs of Act 2, is that what the Act 2? Acto?
It's called Act 2 because it's where most of Act 2 takes place.
Over her desperate hope that she can save Ben Solo, Luke is correct in telling Rey that this might not go the way you think. And in the end, no matter how Poe and Finn may have stumbled, or Holdo, Leia, Rose, and Rey may have triumphed, it's still Luke Skywalker who gets the film's big damn hero moment. She has to be so snippy at the very end.
No, he doesn't, though.
Yeah, no, of course.
No, he doesn't, though.
Yes, he does. He
he does a heroic sacrifice, but it's like
across the galaxy. That's pretty cool.
Admittedly, Rey's big hero moment is just lifting rocks, lifting a bunch of rocks.
But why is she making this stupid ass dig at Luke Skywalker getting the big damn hero moment? It's one of the few interesting and meaningful things that happens in this movie.
I would like to.
And you're just
I would like to. I would like to make an observation here.
Your life is nothing. You serve zero purpose. You should kill yourself now.
Big damn hero moment is like a literal TV tropes phrase, and it comes from a line from an episode of Firefly. So that's a Joss Whedon reference.
Oh yeah, no. It is.
Wait, is Joanna a TV tropes editor? Might explain a lot.
I think probably just a TV tropes reader.
We at some point we got to talk about how TV tropes and the whole mentality behind it has been really corrosive to media criticism and writing. Because I think Rian Johnson also, he's got TV tropes brain, and that means he's always thinking of it leads people to look at movies and novels as just assembled out of tropes, the way something's assembled out of Lego bricks. And you can have the trope or subvert the trope or lampshade the trope, but it's all tropes, and other elements of story and structure get lost or subordinated to trope brain. And it's I think kind of not that tropes aren't in some way kind of real to some extent, but it's also just a really stupid way of thinking about art and media, and a really creatively limiting one. This whole movie lampshading and subverting things, but that still means you're defining your story by the tropes rather than just not doing them at all, rather than just doing something the fuck else.
Yeah, you're it's needlessly, like, most people don't watch a movie and think of tropes because they're not like a culture writer. And when you make a movie for a culture writer, you're limiting your audience. Like, for example, in the original Star Wars film, they were done as documentaries, and they were shot as like in-universe documentaries of real battles, sort of similar to like newsreel footage from World War II, and that doesn't sell. Like, I mean, it probably would have been amazing. It probably would have been great. No one would have given a shit though. This is the same
you wouldn't have
problem.
gotten children.
Yeah,
And I mean, I
wouldn't
didn't
have-
mean to. Sorry, I got off on a track there from the original point.
Yeah, no, you're fine.
But I do think, like, literally, like, I think, like, you see a way, and I think this feeds into how insane the fandom stuff gets, because people look at like a bit of fan fiction or whatever, and they see an assembly of tropes, and the tropes are either good or bad. And if it's got bad tropes, it's bad writing, and if it's got good tropes, it's good writing. And people have like you see the way they talk about the stuff they want to read or consume or make, and it's like, and it's like they're talking about like what they want to order at McDonald's. It's like, well, I want this trope and this trope and this trope, and I want this trope, but without, it's like, I want the McDouble without onions. I want the enemies to lovers, but without a problematic age gap. It's like,
yeah, I think that's
it's
why
a consumerist way of thinking about this stuff.
I think that's why the most the most popular piece of media to come directly out of the sequels is Reylo fan fiction that was so popular on like Wattpad or like fanfiction.net or something that it became a novel and was like optioned. I think it was Wattpad. I don't think Archive of Our...
that sounds like a Wattpad ass thing.
Archive of Our Own isn't out here getting fucking, because those are the those are the free
too,
those
probably,
are like
but Archive of Our Own was like where like the
Archive of Our Own has
real,
has by virtue better shit on there. Fanfiction.com is a
Archive of Our Own is
for the old
more.
heads. Wattpad is just trash for
Wattpad is the lowest
children.
common denominator stuff.
Oh, I'm not saying it's the worst.
Archive of Our Own is like people who list their kinks in their bio.
That is true.
Since we're opening this can of worms now, hey guys, let's talk about shipping, because one of the several major plots of this movie is the fucking dynamic.
So here's the
Rey and
thing
Kylo
about
Ren.
shipping.
So here's the thing about shipping.
During the pandemic, shipping costs exploded because of these kind of supply bottlenecks, and rates got really high and became really profitable. And this
But the sort of like, I don't want to spend too much time talking about it because it would get us into a whole fucking like rabbit hole deserving of its own like episode. But like, the shipping wars that have come out of this new trilogy are insane. I'm speaking specifically about like the fandom around Reylo and the anti fandom around Reylos, which, God, I feel like such a dork even saying that term. Like it's it's such a bad term for it, but like highlights of sort of the like fallout of sort of Ryan Johnson forging a romantic sort of angle between Kylo Ren and
he definitely
Rey
was like reading some of the stuff and playing into it, or somebody was.
Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. That story, the whole plot line for them is literally lifted from like dozens of fan fiction that was like made of them after The Force Awakens. I shit you not. Like, people were using this like Force bond thing like before this Last Jedi came out. Like, it was an established like trope within like new trilogy fanfic.
And Nicole would know.
I would know as the resident
You see, I don't know any. Most of
Geek
my
Girl Whisperer.
fan fiction was the lowest common denominator, Wattpad
Well,
era.
Well, the thing with shipping is
How much Raylo
you
fan
guys
fiction
think
did you write?
I didn't write any, but thousands, if not like hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of fan fictions have been written about fucking Raylo. But the discourse around it was if not more insane than like the cultural general like fan polarization to this movie, because there is like, I shit you not, someone like wrote a whole ass Medium post comparing like Raylos to QAnon.
Yes, this
And they cited a like tweet of like the official Kylo Ren Marvel comment where a bunch of like Raylo fans just like tweeted baby boy a bunch as like grounds
That's
to
cool.
compare them to QAnon people. And their argument is that Raylos were part of a grand QAnon level conspiracy to make their ship Endgame in the new trilogy.
I believe this.
Which is bad. Which is bad because according to the author, Raylo is egregiously problematic because Kylo Ren is a fascist. Making Kylo Rey's love interest can only be done at Finn's expense because you got to like shift Finn's characterization and arc onto Kylo Ren as like a,
if I could
heel
interject,
turn moral person. Hold on. Well, I got one more thing to point out, and because Raylo throws theoretical black women under the bus with racism.
Sure.
I just have some stats for everybody. So a quick perusal of AO3. Number of works tagged Ray / Ben Solo lateral dash Kylo Ren or vertical dash Kylo Ren. 27,327. The longest of which is 1.8 million 60,000 words. That is
so that's longer than the Bible.
It's literally longer than the Bible.
That is longer than, that is 3.5 times longer than the Lord of the Rings.
That's longer than fucking Infinite Jest. That's longer than it. It's longer than any door your grandma uses, like a door stopper.
So the entire
I will say there are some very talented fan fiction writers out there.
About half the length of the Malazan Book of the Fallen, which is 10 books.
There's no good person in Star Wars. They're all like the and the prequels like make this explicit, where the Old Republic is like a settler like colony, like neoliberal state that persists off of like poverty conditions in the Outer Rim. Like all of Star Wars is about romancing fascism. Like the idea that Kylo Ren, in fact, Raylo is the most like faithful part of Star Wars, because the white women of Star Wars love to like romance the sort of like borderline Nazi-esque white boys. Like this is probably the best part of the movie is the Raylo stuff.
The least problematic romantic pairing in Star Wars is Luke and Leia.
Exactly. Yeah, no, the like even in the expanded universe, like Luke marries like Emperor Palpatine's personal Jedi assassin. I mean, like these aren't good people. You're not supposed the entire movie begins with a long time ago, a galaxy far, far away, which implies that like all of this is futile. All of this war is futile. It's happened in the past. There's no, it's the fall of the Roman Empire. You know, there's no glory to be found here. These are just people like prolonging the decay of the state long enough to gain personal satisfaction and personal gain from sort of forcing their will onto large quantities of people that are, whether they live in the Republic, the Empire, the Old Republic, the New Republic, uh, any of it, they're suffering. It's like it's not like Tatooine was any better in the prequels than it was in the original trilogy or 10,000 years before that in the Old Republic. It always sucks to live on Tatooine because the government doesn't care about you.
Yeah, the Republic blows. It sucks. It's bad. The Jedi are kind of like weird, sexually repressed perverts.
Full of sand?
but-
No, that's not. No.
The reason why it's full of sand in the original canon is because there was a alien race initially that had a empire that spanned the entire galaxy, and they would just strip mine planets for resources. And Tatooine was actually a sea planet, and they stripped the entire moisture out of the planet. That's why they have moisture farmers, despite having like an Earth-like environment in its atmosphere. It doesn't. It all of its moisture was artificially removed.
I tell you, man, if they shipped all the fangirls for Last Jedi to Tatooine, they would not need moisture farmers. But
Yeah, because they
seriously,
would be
folks.
crying because the movies are bad.
So, well, that's moisture. Tears are moisture.
Yeah.
Wearing their still suits.
It would have been sticky. It would have been real sticky.
Imagine
It would have been the
Dune,
first sticky
but
planet.
instead of the Fremen, you've just got like women that just to the idea of two stormtroopers fucking.
Oh, I want to think about that, Stu. I'm gonna keep it 100. Like,
but here's the thing. On that note, I want to ask you, Nicole, or either of you, if you've got some insight here. This is something I've like have friends and stuff that are really invested in this stuff, and I've never been able to quite get a really clear. I've gotten some answers that may be really specific to those people. I've never gotten like a good like general like a theory of this. So like I understand like how the Disney like manipulates this stuff and revs it up and all these things, but like at core, why does it work? Why do people get that emotionally involved, whether as Reylos or aunties or guys that like really need Luke Skywalker to be like the uncomplicated main character hero still, like whatever. Why are they this invested?
Why do they
care
right there
this much?
Because you're talking about two very distinct and different subsets of fans. The first,
but they have
I think there's a, not to be gender essential.
Oh, sorry, just to clarify,
so,
they have the excessive like zealous, like they're talking about religion, like level of emotional investment. That's just the thing that's always sort of eluded me.
No, you're right on that. That is the thing that unifies these, like, what I will say are very two distinct different factions of these fans. The fans who were angry about Luke Skywalker being an embittered old man were not necessarily or hardly the same fans who were like freaking out over like, oh my god, Rey's gonna fuck Kylo Ren, like happy or whatever. Like those are two completely different factions of fans. Like, and I don't want to gender essentialize, but I think like men and women engage with fandom very, very differently. Like women tend to be the ones that like produce a lot of like the fan fiction. You don't see like a straight guy sitting down and writing, well, they do when they're like Star Wars fan films, but like the things
they make fan
like
films,
27,000 documents like of fan fiction you just like saw on like fan fiction. None of those were written by straight men. Absolutely not.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
The thing I think that like made Kylo Ren and like Rey such like a sort of like spark is like it's for similar reasons like I touched upon when we discussed like the Winter Soldier and Civil War regarding like, Steve and Bucky. It's like it features several like tropes that are just like and situational characterization things that are just like catnip to like fanfic and like fandom people. Like, the enemies to lovers trope right there. The whole force bond thing is just completely lifted from fan fiction. I think Ryan Johnson might have been reading several fan fiction when he wrote the story for The Last Jedi. I really wouldn't be shocked. You know, the fact that Adam Driver is like hot, ugly guy and gets like 1,000 times hotter as like Kylo Ren. I'm on record for saying he's hot as Kylo Ren, and I don't regret saying that. You know, I love
You do love a grease, like a greasy.
I wouldn't use the term greasy.
It's what my old man would have called a Wonder Bread wop. You know, he eats his Sunday gravy out of a jar.
I'm gonna contradict Nicole here. I think that if you ask any Star Wars fan how they would make a Star Wars movie, they have the idea fully formed in their head. They can shoot it right now. If you ask me what Star Wars movie I would make, I would be fucking I would be blowing your DMs the fuck up with like a full page fucking script.
I would watch the shit out of that, though.
I think that fundamentally it's that I think Nicole's right that women and men were rooting for different things in the Star Wars films, and I think that women won. There is another universe where women did not win, and the war looks different over there.
Well,
like I think
the
that
last movie tried to like please everybody, and that was part of why.
Actually, I think a better analogy other than the last movie is just all the Filoni shit. Like, notice how quiet like right wing guys got, especially dudes, outside of the Gina Carano firing, when they were just getting their like Mandalorian shooting shit up, fucking going on adventures with the boys. They shut the fuck up. They all like Star Wars again. They were like, we did it. The woke mind virus has been defeated. And I think that those type of people, those idiots, if I may be frank, those idiots didn't realize that was always the plan. That like Disney needed to get a new, women weren't as much of a Star Wars fans as the men were. So they alienated them, or at least they perceived the alienation because they weren't being catered to. But it was always it's not like they weren't going to just like not make the Mandalorian. I think the plans changed. I think it was originally going to be a Boba Fett film directed by James Mangold, but there was always going to be something for them. It's like, of course they're going to still make like the Dudes Rock kind of Star Wars because they need money. It's like, it's the profit motive. Like they needed to have women have screaming orgasms in the theater, but then they also made like Rogue One and they put like a blind samurai in it or whatever because like dumb guys on the internet think that that's the coolest thing ever.
Well, they're trying. I think what they've done is they've found better. Like I think that they found that the playing to the antagonism to that. Girls rule, boys drool, brother and sister fighting over their toys, like that idea, because there's definitely like this idea you see over these fandom conflicts where it's like, no, actually this franchise belongs to the queers and the women in the POC, and no, it belongs to the straight guys, and it's like this idea that like it needs to belong to anybody. It's like kind of ridiculous.
This is our most right-wing episode ever.
They played to that, and then I think they blamed that for Last Jedi underperforming, and so they kind of course corrected to try and kind of more quietly please everybody.
I agree that there was a course correction,
because I think women
but I think
like
that
the Mandalorian and they like Pedro.
I think to a certain degree it was always the plan. I think that there was definitely a course correction after The Last Jedi, and especially after Rise of Skywalker.
Oh yeah.
Where they just were like, we're not doing Star Wars movies anymore. We're doing TV shows for 4-year-olds. And I think that was always I think that to a certain degree that was always the plan. It's just the timetables changed. It's sort of like how currently with the MCU, you had like a brief like phase of like experimentation where we're currently at. And I say experimentation in the loosest way possible, where it's like, okay, the James Gunn stuff is hot now. Guardians of the Galaxy and 1 and 2 made a bunch of money. So we'll get Taika Waititi, we'll get Chloe Zhao, we'll get all these people, and then they did that and they kept what stuck, but they scaled it back to a certain degree after like Thor Ragnarok and Ant-Man, because it's like this shit just wasn't making as much money. And there's sort of an idea of like get woke, go broke in these counter fandom circles, but that's not, they're sort of misunderstanding it. It's like, no, this was always the plan. It's just that things are happening sort of at a slightly faster pace.
I think also too, like the larger cultural context is Trump lost. There's a Democrat in the White House, and a lot of people.
There's a Cheeto in the White House.
No, he's out
at the
now.
time of The Last Jedi. Yeah, but at the time of The Last Jedi.
But now there's like a hairy, like a hairy old onion that's been sitting in the drawer for too long in the White House, and people don't like it, but they're basically fine with it.
Hey, Jack, where am I?
A lot of people that were like really wound up by Trump being around they're calmer now, and they're not as motivated by this stuff, or they're like tired of it. And I like this is true. Like all of that, the Trump era was even if you were like agreed with all of it, was fucking exhausting and tedious.
It was
and it
so
sucked.
exhausting.
And I think people are kind of realizing that a lot of people are burned out pretty quick on finding it motivating or engaging or meaningful.
And you know what? That's a good segue into the next sort of thing we can touch upon. That was also sort of the fact that like we have these movies to thank for like the hashtag the resistance sort of like.
No, that was already there.
That's. Yeah, but
Force Awakens was 2015, and that's where I think people.
Yeah, they adopted the iconography of like being part of the resistance, which like Stu, you've already more than cogently brought up your like issues with the whole resistance versus the Rebel Alliance thing in the Force Awakens episode, but like I can't be emphasized enough like how much I think the success of this movie and just the both sides of the reactions to it are so intertwined with A, the Trump years, and B, this was released December 2017, so this is like less than 2 months after the Weinstein allegations broke, and the very beginnings of Me Too. Hence why you get like something like that Vanity Fair article, which is like these things don't completely come out of nowhere. There's always like a real issue that people are like just reaching like Mrs. Incredible beyond in order to like make a product seem more meaningful than it really is, which this is like case in point. So I don't know, do we have any thoughts on just like how like similar to the Force Awakens, just like 2017 Trump years, 2016 election pilled this movie is?
I really think that a lot of the like ham-fisted half-ass liberal feminist stuff in this movie is just a reaction to like Hillary Clinton lost because bros are too toxic to let a woman be president.
I mean that, and that unfortunately informed like a whole like micro generation of quote unquote feminist filmmaking, which there's a couple of ones were like good, but a lot of them were very bad and shallow, and really just came down to being like, don't yell at your female boss. Cole, what was your take? Or are you just gonna talk about George Lucas being cool again?
George Lucas is fucking sick, dude.
So did we, I think we kind of got sidetracked, but did we want to read that weird Medium piece about how Raylo is QAnon? Just
I can read an excerpt from it, so like you just know sort of what we're dealing with.
Yeah, the level of like, and I like you said, like this was pretty widely. It's a Medium piece. But you said it was pretty widely read, like it was.
It was widely panned by people. Like I found this through a Mary Sue article. Like initially I was going to read a Mary Sue article, but like this was too insane to like pass up and not give the most passing mention.
They actually renamed the Mary Sue to RaySkywalker.com.
Well, here's the funny thing is this Medium post also like name checks Kaylee Donaldson, who we uh f- uh uh well eared listeners will remember we read from in the Mummy, My Mummy and Me article. She wrote that really weirdly timed article on the Mummy that we read. But she like name checks her in like this bitch is being a complicit white woman kind of way, which is insane. But here, let me read. I highlighted. All right. Quote, uh, go back to the beginning, back to that Twitter thread of replies and people writing baby over and over on an official post about Kylo Ren. Because, and hold on, Miguel, can you add like, edit that? And I'm going to start over again, Miguel, and edit in like serious, like music to like make this sound like really serious, even though it's the dumbest shit you've ever heard. All right. Go back to the beginning. Back to that Twitter thread of replies of people writing baby over and over on an official post about Kylo Ren. Because what has been covered so far doesn't address how one gets to point C, baby boy, from point A, Raylo. It doesn't address why there is a need for so many people to post the same thing over and over. After sharing this thread with a friend who specializes in conspiracy theories, he replied, "Oh, so this is like their version of Q sent me." Looking back and forth between the two, the replies of baby boy over and over and replies of Q, while disconnected and dissimilar, is a pattern. Both include members that subscribe to a conspiracy theory, Raylo and QAnon, and both are engaging in behavior of roll calling a tweet to indicate their membership of said theory. For Raylo's, the call is to comment on how Kylo Ren is like a baby, while for QAnon's, the call is to invoke Q in some form. And while the comparison between the two may seem a bit extreme, after all, QAnon has been identified as a domestic terrorist threat, while Raylo is perceived as a fun fictional pairing. Feedback from other Star Wars fans suggests that while the group is not as extreme and violent as QAnon, negative effects are still being felt across the fandom. Stitch, a graduate student and professional writer that focuses on representation in media, publishes a regular series in their blog called What Fandom Racism Looks Like. Within the series, they talk about the impact of race on a variety of pop culture topics, all the way from K-pop to Star Wars. Aside, but that is that's such a wide-reaching swath of media analysis right there, just like K-pop to Star Wars.
If Raylos did January 6th, I would be their Ashley Babbitt. I would be.
Yeah, no,
I would be. I would be taking every fucking shot from the cops. I would be like, "Fucking, let's go, white women.
And
We're
then-
gonna get AOC."
If they don't shoot an entirely new version of Rise of Skywalker where Rey and Kylo Ren like fucking get married, we will kill the president.
That would be
okay.
I would be
and then
there.
this person like
I would be
this person brings up
ready.
So Stitch this Stitch person does talk about like there is in fact like racism in nerd spaces, and yes, like, you know, as we'll touch upon probably with like the whole Kelly Marie Tron thing and the fact like John Boyega has some like choice words for how Finn got screwed over in this new trilogy. Like, yeah, there was a fucking racist backlash to, you know, this new trilogy, and it sucked, and a lot of, you know, there's going to be racism in a lot of fan places, you know, and that fucking sucks too. But then this person, I'm going to just dive right back into it. And all this leads to the question, and Miguel, make sure you're playing the series music again. And all of this leads to the question, what does racism towards fans have to do with Raylo? And the answer leads right back to baby boy Kylo Ren. Stitch writes extensively about the racism that is employed in order to make the Raylo narrative work in canon. In order to make Kylo Ren redeemable, he needs to be victimized. And in order to make him a victim, he is reinterpreted from mainstream representations not as a villain or an antagonist, but as a boy who was abused and manipulated from birth that can only escape the prison of toxic masculinity with the help of Rey and her subversion of gender stereotype. Sorry. Hence, baby boy. And then they're like, here's the problem. That character is this. His name is Finn, and he's gonna get sidelined. Which is like, yeah, true. All right, I'm gonna skip a couple paragraphs.
Yeah, keep it to the highlights.
To the highlights. While most perceive of the group Raylo's or shipping as a fun, harmless engagement limited to the imaginary fictional world, the behaviors of group members occur in reality. The effects of their group behavior are felt by real people, particularly abuse survivors, particularly Black women. And people are reporting in disturbingly high numbers that they are feeling pushed out of the Star Wars fandom. Raylo is a conspiracy theory that is highly invested in becoming legitimate, and all avenues towards legitimacy are open season. Whether through amassing more members, creating more think pieces and fanfics, or flooding Twitter posts with baby boy comments.
Raylo by any means necessary.
Raylo is a conspiracy theory because its members are desperate for their theories to become legitimate. That's not how a conspiracy theory works, but okay, Queen.
The Raylos have seized control of Metal Gear.
Wait, here's your big mic drop moment. Ready? The twilight of Raylo is fast approaching. Oh, you know, she like
Raylo
wrote that sentence, and she like took a lap around her room.
It's like fan fiction writers in a bunker killing themselves.
Downfall, but it's all fandom.
Mind you, Raylo.
I cannot live in a world without national Rayloism.
Wait. Okay, wait. All right. The twilight of Raylo is fast approaching, and with the importance of Endgame being placed on the final film, no one knows how members will react to the outcome of The Rise of Skywalker, let alone to the outcome of the conspiracy theory of Raylo. Will Raylo members be vindicated and lauded for the subversive visionaries they are? Or will the film remain elusive, still stubbornly reliant on members' interpretations? Will it be a mass reply to official tweets seeing baby boy over and over? Or will the most insidious effects be felt by the remaining fans who are Black women, abuse survivors, and those with PTSD?
Who are being harmed by fan fiction they can very easily just like not read, I guess.
Apparently Star Wars fans are just getting the fuck beaten out of them, dude.
I swear to God, there might have been like, I think there was like one of those like, and then everybody clapped ass like Tumblr posts where someone was like, I said I was a Raylo and a bunch of people beat me up from the gender bus.
So here's something I find kind of interesting about all this. And this is something, 'cause I have some friends who were really invested in this stuff at the time, wrote a lot of fanfics and
other than the Raylo conspiracy
and stuff. And I don't want to pick on them, but I never could quite wrap my head around it. But something
you should. They're clearly part of a conspiracy.
No. It's something I really actually noticed is there was a lot of esoteric hermeneutics with this stuff. A lot of like interpreting these tiny minutiae.
You made that word.
No, they're real words. Interpreting these tiny
fucking Herman K-neutics. What the fuck is that?
Esoteric hermeneutics.
Explain.
Herman K.
I am explaining. They're going through these movies with a fine-tooth comb, taking all these decisions that are just like, especially in The Force Awakens, just like decisions made based on like what would be entertaining or just like corporate marketing driven decisions, and trying to like interpret a kind of prophecy out of them over what all this stuff meant, over what was all going, over what the master plan was, how it all come together. And what I noticed with all of these and all these competing, like not just interpretations of a movie, but attempts to prognosticate where the series would go at the time there was only one or two movies, was a sense I got, and it's just a sense that they anticipated that the people working on these movies would read this stuff and respond to it, and that they could like hyperstition the end result of this franchise into being. And in turn,
it's wishful thinking.
Well, not quite. But
No, I'm just messing with you.
But in turn, that the reason part of why these conflicts got so intense was this belief that like whoever won the fandom war would actually determine through their influence what the final movies would look like, and not like the marketing departments looking at crosstabs of the 90% of people that don't pay attention to this shit. And therefore, once the actual movie came out, it would shape how people think, and therefore it was like an important fight to have, because if the Reylos win, all the little girls will go and see this movie and be exposed to toxic relationship dynamics and go and marry abusive men. Maybe this just kind of finally clicked for me right now.
No, you're dead ass. No, that's it. That's it. That's literally it. You know, it's for like us. It's like the same subset of like too cute, like half like soft boy whatevers who like have watched every single episode of like Steven Universe and like cry if something makes them like slightly uncomfortable. It's like that. It's like that is like comprised of like the anti-fandom, at least according to like people who ship Reylos, where like from their perspective, like people who ship that are literally enabling abuse.
The
and,
weaponized
like,
vulnerability goes both ways, because there was also like problematic ships or how I process my sexual trauma, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's also like everybody argues everything via like I'm traumatized and vulnerable, and you're not allowed to criticize anything I like or do. And it's right.
This is our most right-wing episode.
But I mean, like, obviously our position is very much like, who cares if things are problematic? Life's problematic.
That's gay.
You should kill yourself now.
But it's just arguing like that whole framework of argument is just stupid, even if you're on the right side.
Marvelous Death, the official podcast of the Fandom Menace.
Shut up, bitch. Yo, can we call this episode the Fandom Menace?
Nicole, that's literally the name of the right-wing counter fandom of Star Wars.
Oh.
Are you serious?
It's like their Gamergate, yes.
Oh. Look what they've stolen from us.
I had a nice little, like, brilliant shower moment.
That was the joke that I was making.
Okay. You know what we didn't really touch upon as much as, like, how we feeling about, like, because moving away from the shipping shit. The other thing that made people, like, mad, or at least the general bigger subset of, like, Star Wars male nerds mad was, Luke Skywalker's whole, like, being basically they gave him the Logan treatment.
Yeah, pretty much.
But not as good. I mean, that's, for me at least, the thing that kind of, like, the one somewhat saving
it's one of the best ideas,
like,
and somewhat well executed ones the movie has. Like, the stuff with Luke, Rey, and Kylo Ren isn't like perfect, but it's like the most conceptually sound and interesting.
Yeah.
And if like that was just mainly the movie,
if that was the movie
and the
itself,
other shit wasn't a mess, it would be a much better movie.
There doesn't need to be two separate B plots. There doesn't.
That's why you should read Legacy of the Force by Karen Travis, which just does this movie but better.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's not much to be said about that plot line that hasn't been said already. Like, I think Mark Hamill is pretty good in the role. I mean, you guys didn't like the part where he like milks those disgusting like.
No, I was fine with that. That was mainly just.
I love that. I love that. I like it being weird. He can do whatever he wants. Except for I know Mark Hamill's like doing voiceovers for like Ukrainian bombs or something.
Oh yeah, he's doing the Starship Troopers. Yeah. Would you like to know more videos
he's literally doing
the war
Starship
in Donbass.
Troopers right now. Like, he's like, you kind of got to give like a pass to like that generation of guys. Like they're just like, they're gonna be like hashtag Ukraine.
Well, I mean, if you're just like a normal liberal and you like get your news from like MSNBC and Facebook and like your friends and the New York Times and like your friends who get their news from the same place, then like that war does look like Hitler invading Poland. And it's not like it's it's not like war and Putin is a good guy or anything, but it's just like it's more complicated than that.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's not. There's nothing wrong with like strongly disliking the Russian government at all. I mean, I think it's a normal position to have, especially.
But there's a role that the United States has in in creating the conditions for and escalating this conflict that needs to be recognized and addressed. And I think you need to be cynical about the interests of the American government in this conflict and wary of the things that they want to do to, on paper, win it. Because I don't think they're necessarily in the best interests of Ukrainians or Americans or Russians as peoples.
No, yeah,
really
no,
anybody.
All imperialism is bad. Russian imperialism is bad. Like United States imperialism is bad. A fucking the white people, all of it. There's no way you can influence a state and be keep yourself entirely morally correct 100% of the time, because you're going to act in your own self-interest.
All right. Well, I guess the last thing I think worth touching upon would be like, yeah, let's talk about the Kelly Marie Tran.
Yeah, but let's briefly touch on
because that really did suck. So Kelly Marie Tran who plays Rose. This was her like first like big on like there's like a curse to Star Wars kind of, and this like even goes back to like, you know, the original trilogy where like, you know, but I think it especially hit like, you know, Kelly Marie Tran bad. But she like infamously basically got run off of social media by just a bunch of what was that the fandom menace people, I'm guessing. But which sucks because, you know, as like marginal and bad as that B plot is, I do think she's very like good and charismatic.
I mean, even if
like,
even if she
she's
wasn't
too good for this, I think she's too good for
even
this
if
movie.
she fucking sucked, like well, I mean, it's like what happened to Jake Lloyd, right?
Yeah,
like Jake Lloyd's not good in the Phantom Menace, but who fucking cares?
But he's also a child.
One of the most important things in this particular character is that he is a wonderfully nice boy. And then there's this very intuitive kind of gut feel you get about that's the one. With Jake, I just got that feeling.
Movies aren't, you know, being a good or bad actor in a movie isn't very important to like, you know, it's not a thing that you need to suffer severe consequences for.
Yeah. So Kelly Marie Tran, after she got like run off of social media, she like broke her silence with the op-ed in New York Times. I just want to read a little bit of it because she did. She raises some like, this is say like we goof and we're very cynical on this podcast, but she does raise very salient points. That like this is a movie that like was not worth any of the discourse or the drama that arose from it. So she said, it wasn't their words, it's that I started to believe them. Their words seemed to confirm what growing up as a woman and a person of color already taught me, that I belonged in the margins and spaces, valid only as a minor character in their lives and stories. Those words awakened something deep inside me, a feeling that I had grown out of, the same feeling I had when I was 9. I stopped speaking Vietnamese altogether because I was tired of hearing the kids mock me. Or at 17, when at dinner with my white boyfriend and his family, I ordered a meal in perfect English to the surprise of the waitress, who exclaimed, "Wow, it's so cute that you have an exchange student." Their words reinforced a narrative I had heard my whole life. That I was other, that I didn't belong, that I wasn't good enough simply because I wasn't like them. And that feeling, I realize now, was and is shame. A shame for the things that made me different, a shame for the culture from which I came. And to me, the most disappointing thing was that I felt it at all, because the same society that taught some people they were heroes, saviors, inheritors of a manifest destiny ideal, taught me I existed only in the background of their stories, doing their nails, diagnosing their illnesses, supporting their love interests, and perhaps more damaging, waiting for them to rescue me. And for a long time, I believed them. I'd also encourage people to like read that op-ed. I think it's very well written for one, and you know, we're on record for supporting the underdogs and people who have been like unfairly maligned, like, you know, so, you know, God bless Kelly Marie Tran. Star Wars is probably the worst thing that happened to her. And John Boyega was also like very on record for feeling like very similarly maligned by the Star like not just the fandom, but Star Wars and like the official sort of machine in general. Like he said in like he was very vocal about how he felt his side he felt like sidelined specifically in this movie.
Well,
So
it really looked like he was, I imagine going in at some version of the movie, or maybe what they sold him on was like, you're going to be like the hero or one of the main heroes. And then like, they never really do anything with him. And a
yeah.
lot of it is just kind of incoherently using his like self-interest to just kind of like make him a comic relief character. And it's again like they that was like the first movie's two interesting ideas were like Kylo Ren as this like guy who is like wants to be Darth Vader but can't do it and sucks at it. And like, what if a stormtrooper fucking broke the conditioning and had hot blood running through his veins and became a dude, and they just fuck it up and keep fucking it up. And I mean, the reasons they fucked it up is because if you're gonna make more Star Wars movies in this environment as a big Disney IP, you can't not fuck it up, because you can't make anything that you can't make the exact same thing, but you can't make something sufficiently different. So you end up with something that's kind of nothing and nowhere and has no substance.
Yeah. So here was how John Boyega he spoke to like GQ in like September 2020. He said, and I quote, "You get yourself involved in projects and you're not necessarily going to like everything. But what I would say to Disney is do not bring out a black character, market them as much more important in the franchise than they are, and then have them pushed to the side. It's not good. I'll say it straight up." And yeah, that's exactly what happened.
I think in Rise of Skywalker, he has like barely more screen time than 90-year-old Billy D. Williams doing we keep shoving these old guys into these movies, having them do shit old guys shouldn't be doing. I don't mean old guy like 55. I mean ancient people who it's like,
hey,
like
some of our listeners are old. Shout out to Jim.
Hi, Jim.
Shout out to Jim.
Hi, Jim. Yeah, we do have at least one old listener.
He's not old. He's not old. He's young at heart.
That is true. But that's also why we should take his license away, because he's fucking old. He's too damn old. You shouldn't be able to fly planes anymore. You're too fucking old.
Well, you're wrong there, because Harrison Ford loves nothing more than crashing jets. He's gonna crash his like airplane into like a McDonald's at some point, like
Luke. I feel like with Luke, like there was a little bit of dignity. It's like he is an old man in this, and there's a little bit of dignity in how they treat that. Like his whole lightsaber fight is like a force hologram ruse, which is not a half bad idea. And not to be like literally old people can't do anything, whatever. But there's like, I just find it really undignified and kind of like weirdly like reflective of like cultural stagnancy and this kind of perpetual arrested development. To just bring these characters and these actors back and like not really acknowledge that they're 90 fucking years old, and let their characters be appropriate to their age and their like what they do and how they behave in their role in the story, and let them change. Like, why is I complained about this in the first one? Why is Han Solo still the same guy, age 75? Like that doesn't make any fucking sense. People change as they age and shit. And that's like, if you're gonna have a series or anything, keep going. If you're gonna bring it back, like leaning into that is the like one interesting thing you can do. It's like, well, like the one like really great franchise revival is like Twin Peaks: The Return, and that's what it did. 25 years have passed and you're feeling it every minute of every episode.
And don't forget Rebuild of Evangelion, but you haven't watched them.
I kind of got sidetracked there, but honestly, I feel like God, like just all these guys on just we're always like paying attention to the worst, dumbest guys. Not like politicians and people who like whatever they do matters, but just always like some compulsive desire to seek out just the dumbest opinion someone has, the worst opinion, the thing that will just provoke your anger, your outrage, and then because everyone pays attention to it, it seems bigger than it is, and then we become like immersed in and surrounded by and magnified by it, and all we're doing is just swan diving into cesspools over and over and over again for no fucking reason. And it's like something that I feel like is built into the way social media works, and something we need to like really self-consciously like stop fucking doing. Like stop finding a guy with 50 followers who says something like insanely stupid, unless it's like really funny. Funny is different. But other than that, like stop fucking finding that shit and retweeting it and writing think pieces about it. Like if you're fucking have like, and I'm not trying to like victim blame or whatever,
Which was the style at the time.
but like fucking turn off your goddamn notifications. You don't ever need to actually see or respond to this shit.
Mute is the best feature on Twitter. You mute, you don't have to it don't exist.
If you go into your notifications, you can make it so you only get notifications from people you follow. Like do that. Like I've said shit on Twitter and had a million people like frothing in rage and been totally oblivious to it until like a week later when because I never noticed or responded to it, it all died down and went away. It's like it never happened. And we can do that. Like you can do that, and everybody needs to learn how to do that, and not just for themselves but for each other. Like to stop shoving the shit that makes us mad into the face of everyone else to make them mad. It's distorting our perception of reality.
No more think pieces 2023. No more think pieces 2023.
I guess does anyone have any lasting thoughts? Because I'm kind of done talking about The Last Jedi. Like I feel like if we like I feel like after you
Let's
said
do the
that,
watch something
I don't want to
else.
give I don't want to give like any more energy to this like already.
We're the apes at the
Not
beginning of
just
2001: A
dead horse,
Space
but
Odyssey.
like it's bones now. Like you're just like kicking bones around at this point. We're literally the apes at the beginning of 2001: A Space Odyssey. Yeah, let's do or watch something else. Unless anyone has any pressing thoughts on bringing back Yoda puppet.
No.
Okay. All right. Well, I got as far as my watch something else, there is literally no better option I can give you than Evangelion 3.0. You cannot redo. Like it is not only is it the like S tier reboot series, and it's also the respective entry that like actually meaningfully subverts expectations and shakes up what the existing like adapted IP has done in a completely different direction. But it is like it also is like the movie that film Twitter people who staunchly defend The Last Jedi, and some of who are our listeners, and I am sorry, but I am calling you guys out on this. Your energy would be much better spent defending that movie with the same energy you use to defend The Last Jedi as a misunderstood polarizing masterpiece. Like you're literally actually describing just what like 3.0 does. That and 3.0 does the whole like withholding information thing and like not telling a character what's going on thing a billion times better, that like because it has like meaning and adds to the atmosphere. So that I watched this Italian movie called Mondo Can, Dog World. That's basically like a better version of what like Finn and Rose's B plot trip to the casino planet is supposed to be going for in terms of like class criticism. So if you got a Canopy subscription from your like local library or your like school or whatever, you can watch it for free on there. Recommend that. And I also am going to recommend The Masters of Time, because that's a French animated sci-fi movie about talking to a 7-year-old over a walkie-talkie across the galaxy, and it looks cool. And it's from the guy who directed Fantastic Planet, so another official Marvelous Watch Something Else recommendation. So there you go. Three movies, one of which is like literally the movie everyone should be like foaming at the mouth defending. Stu,
I think I already brought this up for the last one because again, it's like science fantasy with a strong female characters, and if not subversion of tropes, at least a more critical look at the conventions of just fight and kill the bad guys and blow up their big machine stuff. And that's Nazca, the Valley of the Wind. Particularly, actually, I want to say read the manga. But I feel like I keep coming up with the same recommendations because like these movies all just keep pulling from the same kind of increasingly shallow cultural pool. So I think from now on, I might just pick a random movie I watched semi recently that I liked and think maybe that the audience hasn't watched, regardless of its thematic resonance with whatever we're talking about. Because otherwise, we'll just keep saying,
Yeah, you're just gonna
like,
keep saying
RoboCop over and over and over
well,
again.
that's
or
always
whatever.
implicit in like that's always unspoken that whatever we watch, we're always recommending RoboCop off the top of the dome. But like you just like every other episode now, you've just been like watching Barbarella because you just want to like fuck Jane Fonda in Zero Gravity.
I didn't even like that movie that much. I just thought it was like a better kind of campy romp.
Actually, no, it's because you wanted to be the gay guy with wings in Barbarella. Wait, what's his Duran Duran? You wanted to be Duran Duran.
I wanted to be Duran Duran. Yeah, I want to be the
you want gay ass little wings.
No, that's not Duran Duran. That's the angel guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the angel.
No, that's
what
not
I'm
Duran.
talking about.
Duran Duran's the bad guy.
Duran's the one that puts Barbarella in the orgasm
and
machine.
the thing that I'm going to be used when they catch me for cultural Marxist thought crimes.
Yeah. But no, I'm gonna just apropos of basically nothing. I'm just gonna say watch Cemetery Man. That movie rocks. That movie
oh man, that's when we get to finally doing another watch something
like
else. We should do it on Cemetery Man because not enough people watch that movie.
The fan fiction is always about stuff that is like very like it seems to be often about stuff that's very chaste in the actual text itself. You ever notice that with fan fiction? A lot of the times it's like the stuff that provokes a lot of it is stuff that the actual material is not very sexual or explicit.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
what
if you're a depraved fujoshi and you like kind of like weird, problematic, messy guys.
Oh my god, Rupert Graves in that movie is so fucking.
He called him Rupert Graves.
I know. I'm sorry. I was thinking Rupert Everett. I'm so sorry if you were listening to this. I know you're gay, but like I will. That movie opens on a bare ass shot of him, like his first on screen appearance in Cemetery Man is just.
If you're like a degenerate, depraved woman, there's so much to love in this movie.
He's smoking. He has a gun.
Great original Italian title too. It's an Italian horror film. Della Morte Dell'amore, or it's Dell'amore probably.
It's also based on a comic too.
Oh fuck it! I think it is. Yeah. But that movie fucking rocks. That movie just kicks so ass. Good. And if you want to get passionate about and argue about and interpret a movie, that gives you so much more to work with there. Plus full frontal nudity and
you see his dick.
And morbid necrotic romance. There's so much there to love. Great movie.
And goth curly.
Yeah. And like shitty Italian Columbo. God, that movie is so good. That movie's so fucking good.
Damn. All right, Cole. I already know.
Okay, so
just for formality's
I guess
sake.
Columbo is Italian. I think about it.
So yeah, no, I think that really the best way to experience something new in Star Wars is to experience what dumb guys in like 1978 tried to do with the concept of sci-fi fantasy. So I'm going to recommend Star Crash. It's an Italian sci-fi film, very heavily based on the original Star Wars film. I believe it's on Amazon Prime. If not, honestly, you could probably find it on YouTube.
Let me check.
Was that a Mystery Science Theater episode?
I believe there is a Mystery Science Theater episode about it.
It's got a 2.3 a Letterboxd. How could this be?
It's very fun. It's like it's a short little fun.
You
romp.
gave it a 2.5.
Yeah, but I think I also said that I enjoyed it. It's got some great model
rate
work.
it at all. You didn't review it at all.
That's the same director as Italian Godzilla, which I've always meant to
Oh my
watch.
god, this no, and holy shit, I just watched a movie by this guy, the unofficial like sequel to Suspiria that has the audacity to call itself an adaptation of Edgar Allan Poe's The Black Cat. I literally just watched that this week.
And then I'm also going to recommend to read
Luigi
something
Cosi,
else.
that's a Dago ass name.
Fragile. It must be Italian.
Yes, we know.
Which is I'm going to recommend Splinter of the Mind's Eye by Alan Dean Foster, which was the original Star Wars sequel when before Empire Strikes Back was ever greenlit. Alan Dean Foster, who had worked with George Lucas on the novelization of Star Wars, decided to write his own sequel to Star Wars. And something that's really interesting about it is it's before the sci-fi fantasy formula was really set in stone. So it's got like magic in it, and like fucking like they go to like a weird like medieval planet, and it's completely tonally incompatible with Star Wars, but it's really fun.
Alan Dean Foster has written like every novelization of a tie-in novelization of a genre movie since like 1975.
Yeah, and his Star Wars novels are great, honestly.
Actually, I've actually read his Crawl and Alien novelizations out of like sheer boredom when I was in like middle school. I just found them.
Yeah, no, I like his stuff.
Yeah, solid writer. I can see why they. But I mean,
Yeah.
I just realized I've read the Krull novelization and the comic book. They were laying around my grandparents' house. I think they must have belonged to my aunt.
Yeah, he has another novel called The Approaching Storm, which is set during the prequel era, and that's pretty cool too. Yeah, no, I think that's pretty much it.
So I guess I think we're getting to the point now in our.
Did we think
what?
our shout
I was
out?
just about to.
Okay.
I was just about. Well, now we're at 21 patrons, so I think like naming them all at this point would be a bit of a mouthful because this is a good chance to you got a credits page up. So if you also become our patron, you get your name up on a nice Geocities site. I haven't looked at the site, but you made a credit
You
page.
did it on purpose, right?
Geocities.
GeoCities?
Yes,
Yeah.
GeoCities. GeoCities. Why would it be called GeoCities?
Good night. Good night, everyone.
I put a website up on Anglefire.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you to our newest patrons for the month of May: Lohik, The Beak, Flygene, and Commie Man 420. Well, you can't. Cole, don't say goodnight because we also got to plug your latest reading of Max Landis's unmade Pepe Le Pew script.
Wait, what?
Oh, that's yeah. I guess you can plug that.
one
Yeah,
up.
I guess you can plug that. I don't know.
It's really
I don't like
funny.
to. I had a great time with that. Yeah, if you listen to TGFE, you can
You said
find me over
roasty
there.
and it fucked me up.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. They're great guys over there. Love hanging out with them. Yeah.
Well, anyways, I think that's about it for this clusterfuck of an episode where we
I think it's a
barely
good
talked about
episode.
anything in the movie
No,
itself, but
No, that's the thing.
yeah, well, that's probably the best thing.
These are the best episodes when we talk about or what's around the movie, because honestly, like just nitpicking how a mediocre movie is mediocre, like we just end up saying the same shit every time now. We're past that. We're evolving. Marvelous, the next generation.
Yeah. Well, before we sign off, I have one thing I really want to do. Blows a kiss to heaven. That is for you, Carrie Fisher. We miss you. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
There's like some freak fanboy that just had a hands-free orgasm because of that.
Why did you have to ruin it?
I mean, you could end the episode on that. You don't have to end the episode on that. You can cut that. I'm just saying. There's a gooner that like that is like
Alright, well-
plugging that into the surround sound right now.
All right. To all of our beloved fans and generous patron supporters, the episode's over. Stop jerking off. Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
They all kind of like sang through their noses and
That's the biggest trap people fall into in these kinds of movies is they go too far.
This is our most right-wing episode ever.
I've done it a little more extremely than I've ever done in the past.
Your life is nothing. You serve zero purpose. You should kill yourself now.
I may have gone too far in a few places.
The episode's over. Stop jerking up.